The mistress of the house, please. Yes?
There's an old woman asking to see the mistress, ma'am.
That's too bad. I'm going out.
Very good, ma'am.
Why don't you tell Mrs. Lancelot to deal with her? Now she's deigned to join us, she might as well make herself useful. It's very simple, really. I'm here because of Gladys Martin. I knew her, you see, and when I read this about the terrible thing that's happened to her, I felt I ought to see if there was anything I could do.
Yes, of course. Nobody seems to know very much about her, and I doubt I can be of much help. My husband and I have only recently returned from Africa, and I've just come down from London, much to his chagrin. This Gladys, did she have any relations, do you know?
No, she didn't. She came to me from the orphanage, and I trained her for domestic service. She was only 17.
Dear me, so young. Was she a pretty girl?
Oh, no, not at all. And rather stupid, too, but I was fond of her. Maybe even a little sorry for her. One doesn't really know what to do with the Gladyses of this world.
How ghastly that she should have been caught up in all of this.
It was the clothes peg that worried me. It's mentioned in the article. Such a contemptuous gesture. It gave me a kind of picture of the murderer. To do a thing like that is really very wicked indeed.
And so pointless, with no rhyme or reason.
Oh, no, my dear. I wouldn't say that. She was a very silly girl, credulous, the sort who'd give her savings to a swindler. Not that she ever had any, because she always spent them on the most unsuitable clothes.
What about men, Miss Marple?
Oh, she badly wanted one of those.
Well, seems she got one in the end.
Did she, Inspector?
At the holiday camp. Albert Evans, his name was. A mining engineer, so she told the cook.
Oh, dear, well, she'd believe anything. You don't connect him with this business, do you, Inspector?
No, I don't think so. He sent her the odd postcard, but he never visited her.
Oh, well, I'm glad she had a taste of romance. In the nick of time, as it turns out. You know, you've a look of the young Errol Flynn about you.
Oh, do you think so?
Yes, I do. I'm staying at the Baden Heath Golf Hotel for a day or two. I wonder, Inspector, would it be a presumption if I were to offer assistance in some very humble way? You strike me as a most intelligent and, if I may say so, impressive young man, but 3 murders in 2 days, well, that's enough to challenge the strongest metal. And people do tend to confide in old ladies, don't you find?
Rex Fortescue died of taxine poisoning.
Taxine?
You got it from yew trees.
Oh, I know that, Inspector. I was just thinking how very convenient. And Mrs. Fortescue?
Potassium cyanide. She was having tea in the sitting room with the family. The last person to leave was her stepdaughter, Elaine, and some 20 minutes after that, Miss Dove, the housekeeper, found her dead.
Had Mrs. Fortescue been eating anything?
They'd had a sumptuous tea.
Cake, I suppose, and scones, perhaps. And butter and jam and honey.
Yes, all of these things and more, but the poison was in her tea.
I was just trying to get the whole picture, so to speak. And poor Gladys?
She'd taken the first tea tray into the sitting room, and then left the second tray in the hall. After that, no one saw her. The cook, Mrs. Crump, thought she'd gone out for the evening because she was wearing her best nylon shoes. Sadly, that wasn't the case. Poor girl had obviously remembered some washing on the line, gone out to fetch it in when someone took her unawares.
Someone from outside?
Or inside, but somebody who wanted to get her alone.
It does all make a pattern, don't you think, Inspector?
Does it?
Well, first we have Mr. Fortescue, Rex Fortescue, killed in his office in the city. Then we have Mrs. Fortescue eating scones and honey. Then we have poor Gladys with a clothes peg on her nose. Oh, it does all seem to fit, doesn't it?
I'm not quite there yet, Miss Marple.
The papers were right, weren't they, about what you found in Mr. Fortescue's pocket? It was rye.
Yes, it was.
Well, there you are, you see. Mrs. Lance Fortescue, what a charming woman. She said to me that there didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. But it's surely the rhyme that strikes one.
Is it?
You haven't, by any chance, gone into the question of blackbirds?
silly as a peanut, but sweet as you like. She didn't have much up here, though. Well, didn't have much anywhere, really, but to go like that stocking round her neck, the peg on her nose.
Why would anyone do such a wicked thing?
Oh, that girl knew something, Miss Marple. The day the master was killed, she was twitching and jumping like a rabbit.
Oh, what's got into you today?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Crump.
Oh, you always think you had a guilty conscience.
Oh, don't say that, Mrs. Crump.
Have you, Gladys? Have you got a guilty conscience?
I don't know nothing, Mrs. Crump.
But if you do, you should go straight to the police.
I couldn't, Mrs. Crump.
You speak the truth and shame the devil.
And anyway, they'd never believe me.
Wouldn't believe what, Gladys?
Nothing, Mrs. Crump. I don't know nothing at all.
She must have seen or heard something.
Oh, without a doubt, Miss Marple.
I wonder what.
Because I've never tamed that wife of Mr. Percival.
Haven't you, Mrs. Crump?
No, not ever. She looks down her nose when she's no right to. Of course, she used to be a nurse.
Did she?
And nurses are used to handling drugs, aren't they? And poisons.
So, you think that Gladys may have unwittingly...
I'm saying nothing, Miss Marple.
Sir. Sir. Found us in the shrubbery, sir.
Good work, Pickford. So, someone would have got hold of this new pot of marmalade, spooned a bit off the top, mixed it with the taxi, and then put the poison mixture back in to make it look like a virgin pot. Is Rex Fortescue the only one to have marmalade with his breakfast?
Yes, sir.
That makes it very simple then, doesn't it, Pickford? No need to worry about putting it in his coffee. And the contaminated pot would have been replaced by another with exactly the same amount put back in before being thrown into the shrubbery. All we have to do is find out who threw it.
Peanut solid sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 4 and 20 blackbird baked in a pie. When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing. Wasn't that a dainty dish to set before the
Yes.
king?
I like that nursery rhyme too, Mr. Crump. What a very trying time you must all have had.
I'm off. Had enough. I can't stomach that Percival.
Will Mrs. Crump be leaving too?
She got any sense, she will. There's something funny going on here. When the master got mixed up with what's his name, and the blackbird.
The blackbird, Mr. Crump.
And what's his name?
What's his name?
What's his name?
What is his name, Mr. Crump?
The king was in the counting house, counting out his money. The queen was in the parlour, eating bread and honey. The maid was in the garden. Murder, she said.
Who said?
Mrs. what's his name? Who went to, where was it? Oh, Pinewood, that's it.
Pinewood, Miss Crump?
Who the hell are you?
Marple, Jane Marple.
Well, bottoms up, miss. Pack up all my care and woe. Here I go, singing low. Bye, bye, blackbird. Where's somebody who waits for me? Sugar sweet.